All right, folks. Hey, good morning. This is Talking with Tom. I'm Tom Schmidt.
And I'm Tom Trtan.
And this is just two guys named Tom shooting the breeze.
Yeah,
That's all
I
it
kind of
is.
like it. That way I'm not going to make a mistake of what name to use.
Yeah, exactly. Or who's talking, right?
Right.
You never know. Could be the one of us. All right, so just kind of want to set the premise here, get the foundation going of what the plan is for this. This is, of course, the first episode of Talking with Tom, the first one that you're going to be allowed to see, at least. And I think right now we're just going to keep things fairly simple this morning, but who knows, later on we may try to dive into some science experiments, may have some guests on occasionally.
Ooh,
Yeah,
science
right.
experiments. I like that.
Maybe even do some weather questions, weather trivia, weather facts.
Sure. There are a lot of them out there and a lot
There's a
of
lot.
weather misunderstandings, too.
Yes, there is. Yeah, so we're just trying to have some fun, and we got two guys named Tom, just happen to both be meteorologists who can maybe put something fun together for us eventually. But for right now, we'll just keep it just us, plain talking with Tom. And Tom, I want to start off by saying Blake Haynes today announced his last day is July 2nd.
Yeah.
So put that on air. And part of his little going away speech, if you missed it, you'll probably be able to catch that later online. But he included a clip from 4 years ago, his first day on air here at Ozarks First. And he was interviewed by you.
Mm-hmm.
And so you've worked with him for 4 years. He's
Yeah.
been around a while. And that kind of just put things in perspective. And he kept talking about all the greats that we had a chance to learn from. And it just kind of put things in perspective. You've been here since 85,
85, right.
In a
November
long
of
time.
85.
November of 85. And so you're kind of one of those, Ozark legends, as some people would call you. And it just kind of raises the question, who did you kind of look to growing up that maybe influenced you to make a decision that, hey, this is what I want to do. Let's give that a try.
Well, I grew up in the Chicago area, so there were three weather people that I listened to, and I'm only saying this. It's like I didn't have a dream of being a meteorologist when I was young, but
Oh, yeah.
I liked these people and how they presented weather a lot. One was a gentleman by the name of P.J. Huff, and P.J. Huff would, toward the end of his weathercast, he would just draw a squiggle all over a big easel. And then he would make a picture out of it, and it was always fun to watch. He made it fun to watch what he was doing, and therefore more people. He's very popular in the Chicago area. The other was, the one that I think made me really realize that you can have fun. You can be a scientist. You can have fun, and you can make the knowledge that you give people fun. And that was John Coleman. John Coleman was, I believe, with WLS. I can't remember what the call letters were when I was young, but it was an ABC affiliate. And John Coleman went on to found the Weather Channel.
Pretty big deal.
Yeah, he was very big. I mean, a scientist all the way, and he would tell you how things worked and here's why it's happening. But he would do it in a fun way. He would kid around with the news anchors and things, and there was that rapport that he helped to establish that, I hope I did when I was doing meteorology. It's like, yes, you take it seriously, but the things you don't have to take seriously, have a good time with. And that's what I tried to do.
I agree. And we were talking earlier, you mentioned folks like, Tom Skilling also.
Tom Skilling
Being
with
a big
WGN.
influence.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
He retired just last year, of course.
Yeah. The NBC, Harry Volkman.
Oh, Harry Volkman.
Yeah, Harry Volkman was
he was up
another
there.
one. Yeah, all at the same time. So this would have been, like in the 60s and 70s, right in there. Those were some big names. P.J. Huff, I think, was a little before that.
Okay.
But he's the first one that I remember.
And, thinking of that, you're talking like late 60s, maybe into 1970s, somewhere in there.
Mm-hmm.
These guys would have been kind of the pioneers
They were.
of TV meteorologists.
Yes.
And at that time, not everybody kind of agreed with having weather as a segment in TV.
True.
Not every station had that yet.
Well, the thing was, there were a lot of people on television at the time. They were weathermen. They
sure.
weren't meteorologists necessarily, or they hadn't been degreed in meteorology or earth sciences or anything like that. They just kind of learn the weather. They may have touched on it when they were in the military, or
Sure. Yeah.
or they just the National Weather Service, which is meteorologists all over. They send you the information, and so a lot of times it was what you call rip and read.
Oh, right.
Where you just rip the forecast off the teletype machine, and you would just read a forecast. So after a while, it became, we should get the real McCoy here, and they started bringing meteorologists on board, and that's how it has kind of worked through the years.
So there's a guy, I can't remember his name. It's Bill somebody. Maybe you can help me out. But he was 1966, the Topeka tornado. F5 went through, and that's what he did, a rip and read. And for that tornado, he was kind of the guy that just read off and said, "For God's sake, take cover."
Yeah.
I can't, Bill.
Yeah, you got me stumped
Bill
on that
somebody.
one. But I know that was, when it comes to tornadoes, severe weather, you know just as well as I do, that is when you're absolutely serious.
That's it.
There's no kidding around during that time, because that's really what the job of a meteorologist is. It's not to tell you it's partly cloudy and 72 degrees, okay? It's to tell you, take cover. That's
true.
what our real job is.
Yeah, that's right. And coming, where it matters.
Yeah.
When the big time counts, sunny days, sunshine, 80 degrees, even if it's 100 degrees. I mean, sure, pay attention to, heat safety and that kind of thing. But
Sure.
For most folks, it's not as dangerous or life-threatening as a big storm day.
Our real job is protecting life and property.
That's right. Good way to put it.
That's what it is.
Okay, and so then on that note, I want to jump in and talk a little bit about this crazy weather season we've seen so far.
Well, wait a minute. That's
from
fine,
Missouri.
but who were your influences?
Well,
as you got me, but you're not telling anybody.
I can't get away. Well, so you're up in Chicago. I grew up in Oklahoma City for the most part, and there was a guy down there called Gary England.
Okay.
And Gary England was the chief at the CBS station there for 40 years. He was started in 72 and retired in 2013. And he was a hoot. He was Oklahoman through and through, just kind of a country boy. Grew up on the farm, Northwest Oklahoma, and kind of brought that folksy humor type into the TV. And
he could tell you where every crossroad was.
Oh my gosh.
And what store was there. Yeah.
Exactly. Yep. Even have some, folklore. He was great at that, and just he was a fun guy. But he was kind of the guy I grew up watching, and then later on he retired, and a guy named David Payne took over. And David Payne was the true image of bringing the personality.
Okay.
And the energy to storm coverage, and really just, he put a lot of emphasis on the entertainment side of the TV world, while Gary was more focused on the, relatable, folksy kind of old school way of doing things kind of side. So got to see both sides, but Gary England, I'd say, was probably the biggest influence I had growing up.
Okay.
For weather stuff.
And it's kind of odd, because where I grew up, where you grew up, that's like the heart of what people consider Tornado Alley.
Sure, yeah, it can be.
So that was the weather that you would be most concerned about, were the severe storms, tornadoes, things like that.
Absolutely.
Up where I, grew up, you were concerned with how many inches of snow are we going to get? Because where I lived, which was on the southern tip of Lake Michigan,
oh man,
you had lake effect snow big time.
So what's the most snow you can remember seeing up there?
What was it, 1966 or 67, big blizzard. I was a paper boy.
Man, way back. Okay.
And there were times when, my father said, if they get the papers on the corner, you deliver them. So I had a sled that at times I was pulling here. I was at my shoulder height, and I was pushing through drifts.
Through the
like
snow.
That.
Oh, my gosh.
We had a gas station that we got up on the roof, and we would jump off into the drift, which was just about as high as the gas station.
Oh my gosh.
So it was a blizzard that stopped everything, except I don't know how they got the papers on the corner. Helicopter is all I could figure.
Maybe a dog sled, maybe. Yeah.
So I mean, you know, if you say how high was, how deep was the snow, it depends on whether you're talking about a drift or you're talking about flat. And there wasn't a lot of flat; there was a lot of drift, and that could have been, 12 feet high in some places where it would stack up against something.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. That's a lot of snow.
Yes.
But you know what? That's the old saying, right? No snow, rain, or wind, whatever. The mail and the paper both got to be delivered.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Boy, did I make a lot of tips though the time I collected right after that, because I got the papers to the doors.
People appreciate that. I tell you.
Yeah.
Good service goes above and beyond. People appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, we were talking a little bit about what got us started, and we both kind of talked a bit about severe weather is kind of when it counts.
Yeah.
People rely and listen to us most during these kind of times, and this year, it's getting kind of crazy with the severe weather, man, and thunderstorms and tornadoes. It's been busy. A quick fun fact, maybe not so fun, but Missouri is now second for the most tornadoes in the United States. I think we're just behind Texas.
So Oklahoma doesn't even figure in anymore.
No, not this year at least. I
Wow.
mean, they're seeing an average year. I think latest check, they've probably got 55 or 60. They're probably at 60, which is pretty typical for them. But
And where are we?
we're at 115 at last check. 115 tornadoes.
Ooh, where does that figure in year to year? Is that
Well,
way up for our yearly accounts?
well, it's a new record.
Okay.
And last year we actually got 105 tornadoes in the state. So this year and last year.
Uh-huh.
And then the year before that, that would have been 23 was pretty typical.
Okay.
Typically we see about 40, 45.
Yeah, but we
tornadoes
also
a year.
had things that weren't tornadoes, but they were straight line winds that did a lot of damage
Oh, yeah.
too.
Yeah, we see a lot of, what they call derechos or
Yeah,
these,
derecho.
MCSs come through, mesoscale convective systems. Had one of those this morning go through Kansas. Wichita had 100-mile-an-hour winds this morning
Yeah.
in storms there. So
It doesn't have to twist
Just
to
happens.
pack a punch.
No, it does not.
I mean,
Not
we
at all.
saw a lot of trees down all around the area. The last one that came through,
Yeah.
there was not necessarily constant tornadoes. A lot of it was just straight line winds. They were getting up to what, 90 miles an hour?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. April 29th, I
Yeah.
think, is when that was.
Yeah.
Man, big power outages.
Mhm.
That was a big time windstorm.
Yeah, still
right
see
through.
trees down all over the area.
It'll take a long time.
Yes.
They're still working. Still working on getting stuff fixed and cleaned up from that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's crazy, Missouri, when you think of Tornado Alley, you don't really think of Missouri. And they haven't been, like, we've had a few big ones. There's been a couple EF3s and even some EF4s, but a lot of them have been EF1s, maybe a few EF2s. I think
Yeah, they can do damage.
they can, absolutely they can, and they have.
Yes, they have.
Looking back at that, I think it's out of the 115, there's been 18. 18 of those have been EF2 or stronger.
That's too many.
It's a lot. And they've been some big ones. Like I said, we've had some EF4s. And that includes northern Arkansas, too. They've seen some EF4s.
Oh, northern Arkansas could see some nasty weather.
Yeah. Yeah,
Throughout
this
the
March
year.
was big time.
Yeah, it amazes me when you have to watch, especially during winter. Okay, where's the snow going to be? Where does the ice fall? Where does it become freezing rain?
Oh,
And
yeah.
northern Arkansas likes to get a lot of freezing rain, maybe when we're having snow.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So I don't care who you are, freezing rain. Even driving a tank, you're not going to get good purchase.
No.
In snow, you can get around a little more easily.
You can. Just take it slow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Use your transmission instead of your brakes a lot of times.
Yeah. Well, that's smart.
Yeah. Yeah.
Smart thinking.
Right.
Maybe that's something we can talk about too later on. Just something we talk about maybe around wintertime or as winter weather comes around. Because people always talk about, the Ozarks are a little higher. And so it could be raining in Springfield, but there's that spot east of here, like Seymour, where we could be dealing with rain, but they could be dealing with ice
Yes.
over
yeah.
there because they're about 500 feet higher in elevation. And so it makes a difference.
Yeah, we're on the
You get into the
Pennant
hills, you can see where rain begins and snow starts.
Plain. Yeah.
Or ice, for that matter, begins.
And all you have to have is the surface at freezing, warmer temperatures. It's all about layers of warmth.
All about layers.
You know,
Yeah.
that's how it hits the ground. If it's good and freezing all the way down, boom, you're going to get snow. You may get hail, sleet rather. But that freezing rain is the thing that just everybody freaks out, because they should. Everybody should be really careful during those times.
Oh yeah, no kidding. I guess it kind of brings up another point, and you're the one to point this out.
Yeah.
If you Google search, what's the city with the most variable weather?
Yes,
is that
with
correct?
the most varied weather.
Most varied weather.
In other words, the city with the most different types of weather
Yeah.
in the United States.
And the answer is
Springfield, Missouri.
Springfield, Missouri. I didn't realize that.
Well, it's like, if you think about it, we're the only thing we don't get as far as weather phenomenon is the eye of a hurricane.
That's true.
We can get the
Yeah.
feeder bars. Okay, we can have
Plenty.
temperatures well above 100 degrees. We can have drought. We can have it well below zero.
Yeah.
Freezing conditions, blizzards, thunderstorms, floods, severe thunderstorms, tornado. All of those things we have. Springfield is nailed as the city in the United States with the most varied weather. When I saw that, I just went, no wonder.
I mean, no kidding, right? Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. It's crazy. You think of this winter time. Remember how cold it was?
Sure.
We had several days in February that were, sub-zero.
Yes.
We had some -1s, -2 degree readings.
But
Man,
several days.
several.
It wasn't a long stretched out period.
No. We were 60s, probably the following week after
Right.
that. Yep.
Right. It is.
That's that variation setting in.
Yeah. It's just it's tough. That's what makes it a little more challenging to do any kind of prediction as to what's going to be happening. Snow, I know, is, people want to know, how much snow are we going to get? That's really tough to tell.
Yeah, it is. Or where is it going to be?
Exactly.
Even that basic question is just
Yeah.
challenge to answer.
It takes just something very slight to change, and everything changes.
That's right.
And even though we have, incredible data coming in here, as soon as it comes in, it's old. The atmosphere changes. It doesn't sit in a steady state.
No.
So we can say, aha, it changes. So those are some of the things that I know you deal with on a daily basis. I used to deal with, but that's part of the science.
Yeah, it's a lot, and the science keeps moving forward. Things keep they keep coming out with new technology.
Yep.
AI today is the new hot topic, and that includes for weather forecasting. There are AI models today that'll produce an output, and they have the same difficulties that we've seen
Right.
so far with the numerical models that they've used for decades now in the past. But
Well, it's not
It's
an
still difficult.
exact science.
no, it's not. It's a forecast.
A
It's a
plus
forecast.
B doesn't always equal C if you just fudge one thing in there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So speaking of the weather, we have something coming up this Friday
Okay.
at 9:45 p.m.
Yes.
Summer begins, turning over from spring into summer. So this year it falls on June 20th.
Mm-hmm.
The actual solstice takes place at night for us here local time, 9:45, 9:46, something like that. So I guess Saturday will be the first full day of summer. And with that, we could reach our first 90-degree day of the year. So it's going to get plain hot around here.
Well, sure. Generally in the Ozarks, you have winter, 2 days of spring, and then summer. And that's kind of the way it felt a little bit,
Oh my gosh.
Things. The nice thing, though, even though we've had a lot of rain, I personally didn't feel the humidity like I've started feeling over the last couple of days.
It's getting humid.
Yes.
Our
yes.
dew points going into Thursday through this weekend are expected to be about 70 to 75 degree dew
that-
points.
Always called it air you can wear.
Air you can wear, exactly. We're going to be dealing with that and 90 degrees. So our first 90-degree day this Friday could come with heat index values of 100.
Right.
100
So
degrees.
that's what you're dealing with, really.
That's what we're dealing
90 degrees is your engine block. 100 is your skin.
with. Exactly.
That's how you feel.
It's a lot. Oh man, just soupy. And speaking of spring, it was rainy,
Yeah.
and I think that really did lead to this spring. Just seemed like it just flew by. A lot of storm days. We talked about that a little bit.
Yeah.
A lot of rainy days. Man, record rainfall between April and May. Those 2 months put together. Had over 20 inches of rainfall. And good days were few and far between.
True.
So
Very
we
true.
didn't see a whole lot of sunshine. Didn't see a whole lot of 70s and sunny and calm weather. It was 70s and stormy.
Yes. Flowers look pretty good.
Flowers look good. Oh, mine don't look good anymore. They're drowning.
Well, that's true.
Mine are
They're starting to
underwater.
go, enough.
I don't know if they'll come back or not. We'll have to.
Oh, well,
Time will
all
tell
you
on
can do
that.
is hope. Now, speaking of rain, there's, I said some things we can clear up. I would really like to touch on the matter of 30% chance of rain.
Oh no.
I really would, because
Okay.
I know people have different opinions about what it means when you
Right.
say 30% chance of rain.
Right. So well, the way I've heard it, because the different ways I've heard is like, well, that means 30% of the area is going to see rain.
No, that would be 100% chance of rain in 30% of the area.
That's correct.
a
That's not
different
the right
thing.
way of saying it.
No.
But some people think that's what you mean. Or the other thing is, it's like, well, 30% likelihood that it happens. Well, it's like, well, I might treat it like that some days, but the official definition, if you look it up, you have to throw an element of time in there.
Right?
You have to have a time window, and then you have to throw in it's a probability
Yes.
chance, and that's different than, well, it may have, may not. A probability would be, like if it's 30%, that'd be 3 times out of 10.
Yeah.
3 out of 10
3 in 10 chance
that it's going to rain in your area.
in the broadcast area.
In the broadcast area, which I think we cover, it's something like 30 counties
Yeah.
in
yeah.
southern Missouri and northern Arkansas during a certain window of time.
Right.
So you have to have those 3 factors in play.
Between here and here, you have a 3 in 10 chance of rain in the area that you are forecasting
In the
for.
area.
So, and if you dig a little more deeply, yes, you can get, okay, there's a 3 in 10 chance between 10 and 2, and then dips to a 2 in 10. And then at 7 o'clock, it's an 8 in 10. That's the 80% chance.
Yeah.
But that's what it is. It's not, 30% of the area is going to get rain. That's 100% in that area.
Yeah, it would be.
So
Yeah.
it's a 3 in 10 chance. If you're hearing this in the area that I am broadcasting to, 3 in 10 chance you can get rain.
That's right. It's a common misunderstanding. And how many times in the summertime
Yeah.
do we see, 90 degrees and 30% chance of scattered showers?
Mhm.
I mean, just
A bunch.
a bunch. Exactly. It's
Yes.
pretty common around here
Uh-huh.
to have that kind of
Heat of the
situation.
day things.
Heat of the day.
You don't
exactly.
necessarily have any kind of disturbance or front or anything. It's just 90 degrees. You start to bake that air and you get lift. And if you have moisture, okay, you have your 30% chance of rain or thunderstorms.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, because it's so hot and humid.
And that's just kind of the crazy part. There's just a randomness
Yes.
to it. On days like that, huge air masses,
Mm-hmm.
anywhere in this, hundreds and hundreds of square miles air mass could produce stray showers.
Right.
And it just happens to be right overhead.
But then you have to watch the atmosphere so many thousands of feet high because, we could get this, but there is a cap up there which keeps
Yeah, well,
things from
sometimes there can
rising.
be.
And,
Yeah.
so you have to watch the atmosphere aloft, not just where we are, to help you determine that could break. That cap can open and let the air, and sometimes it's explosive development.
Yes.
Then you get
Can be.
those big thunderstorms all of a sudden out of nowhere.
That's how it seems. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. It's busy. All right. Well, Tom,
Yeah.
anything else you want to talk about?
I don't think so, but I think, as we go through time, I think we're probably going to be touching on a lot of things. And I think, hopefully people will respond and give questions to us
That'd be great.
because any way to help anyone understand this is what's going on, that's a good part of our job. When we can say
Yeah.
there's a cap and people go, I know what that is. Okay, we'll see what happens. And taking a little surprise out of, severe storms or something like that.
Sure. Yeah, maybe a better understanding of why we say it may happen, it may not.
Right.
on
Right.
certain days. A
Yeah, we're
cat
not
playing a role.
waffling and throwing darts at a dartboard. I know all the jokes and all of the, I wish I could have your job. You're only right
Oh, yeah.
30% of the time. It is a percentage because, despite what you might think, we don't control it.
Yeah.
I'd own the joint if I if I controlled the weather.
Yeah, no kidding. We changed that 30% to 100% accuracy.
That's it.
Every time. It just doesn't happen. All right. Well, so yeah, I'd like to talk about this. Is the first episode. Talking with Tom.
That's it.
Went pretty good.
I think so.
Hey.
I think good enough to go for a second episode.
I think good enough to go for a second. We'll take that as an okay. Going forward, we've talked about a few guests ideas or just having some folks on who might have some interesting stories to tell.
Yeah.
Weather related or just, general fascination.
Sure.
Whatever it
maybe
happens to be.
People who remember some of the history of the Ozarks weather.
Yes.
Because there are some pretty cool events to talk about.
Yeah.
Maybe some of the Mets from the National Weather Service would be great to have.
They would be. Yeah, I know. Steve Rennell's the manager over there. He's been there, I want to say, since the 90s. So he would have some stories to tell for sure from that perspective.
Yeah.
And then you alone, you've been here since the 80s. What am I talking about? You've got
I'm
tons.
I'm not even in the same bowling alley as Reynolds is. Those are people there that when I first started this, they were an invaluable source.
Oh yeah,
Because
well still
I don't care how much you study. This is a unique environment, a unique place when it comes to doing weather, and often bouncing things off of people to get a better understanding is a great idea. And the people over at the National Weather Service are tops. It's just that's the way
true.
they are.
It's kind of a group effort.
Yes.
Everybody kind of looking at each other's forecasts like, well, what's he say the high's going to be for today?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, well, why he said that? I think it's going to be this or something like, well, what's he thinking there? Why'd that happen?
Yeah. And it coalesces
Oh,
into
yeah.
one word.
Yeah. Right. All right. Well, thank you, Tom, for your time today.
Thank you, Tom, for your time today.
We filled a half hour.
Get out.
Half hour talking with Tom. First episode. I'd say not too bad.
And I think
That's good.
we did it well.
All righty, folks. See you next time for the second episode of Talking with Tom.